Fearless Gamers, Matt here for Fearless Games, and welcome to our first live stream here. I'm pretty sure I am muted right now. There we go. Hello, Fearless Gamers, Matt here for Fearless Games, and welcome to the first live stream here on the YouTube channel, and it is a episode of The Joy of Painting Minis. Like I said, this is a little bit of an experiment here going on, so please bear with me while we work throughout all the kinks and bugs in the stream. As you can see, we've got a Tau Emissary BFG ship right here that we're going to be painting. Let's see, hold on. Sign into the chat. Why am I asking to be signed in? I don't know. Let's see. Whoop. Hold on. We got a little bit of a screw up. 1 second. Let me just see here. Okay. Let's see. There we go. There. Okay. Now I've got my moderator up and running. How is my audio sounding? Am I getting like a double feed or anything like that? Yes, no, maybe? I'm going to... let me just... Testing. Audio sounding. Am I getting like a double feed or anything like that? Let's see. We will put that off, so then all you can just hear is the camera mic. Again, apologize if there's anything going on right now. And moderator, if you are listening, I cannot see the chat on my end right now because I accidentally closed it. So you're going to have to speak in the chat box so I can see what's going on for right now. See, let me just see real quick. Can I put the ear up? There we go. I got my chat back. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off for right now, or just minimize it. Minimize all this stuff, and let us get started. So, like I said, this is the Tau Emissary. This is the original Forge World miniature. Got this off of Phil when he left. Or, well, he's just no longer around here to be able to play BFG with me, so he let me keep the fleet so we could still have games going on. And so what we're going to be doing for this is we're going to be painting it in the Doran'Por Set World colors. This is something we've never officially done with any of the Tau models on the old live stream videos. If anyone remembers the Dor'N'Por series, we had a Set World of Tau that Phil had created, obviously called Doran'Por. But when you saw them, they were always in that classic Tau tan Set World color. But that isn't the actual Set World colors for this faction. Instead, it's actually a turquoise color. So we're going to be using a game color turquoise from Vallejo. Give this a nice good shake right now. And we've already primed it. We primed it using Vallejo Surface Primer White. And so just going to give this a little bit of a good shake because this paint has been sitting for some time. All right. Okay, and then put a little bit on our palette. And the reason for the turquoise color was because, according to Phil, the word Doran'Por in Tau means pure water. So he always envisioned that the planet that they came from was primarily aquatic. So it's going to have a bluish tinge to it, like a sea blue kind of thing. So he decided on turquoise. Some I don't know how many of you guys know this, but for those who do not know, Tau basically use a form of use camouflage on their vessels in their armies. So when you see them, they're not like Space Marines where no matter what planet they're on, they're always in their chapter colors. They actually will paint their ships and their armor in a color that matches the planet they're on. So since Doran'Por is a aquatic world, they would paint the ships that hang out in the system in a color that would kind of match the planet, so they would essentially blend in with it. Which is kind of interesting. It allows you to have a little bit more control over the colors. Kind of gives you like an Eldar kind of setup where you can paint different colors but still be part of the same group or faction, which I think is pretty neat. And so we're going to start here. Like I said, we're going to be applying this all over. This is going to be an all over color for this model. So we will be going there. And actually something really interesting. Forgive me if I ramble on and on. I feel like just dead air while painting is a little boring. So forgive me if it sounds like I'm just rambling on and on and on. There goes my phone. I apologize. Let me turn that off so no one can hear that. And there we go. No, there we go. So an interesting thing about this particular ship and the fleet that it comes from, it's the Forge World. I think it was called the Tau. It was either the Expansionary Defense Force, or I forget the name of it off the top of my head. But this was Forge Worlds. They made all the rules for this particular this particular faction of Tau, thinking they were going to be the only ones making any rules for Tau. So it turns out they didn't know about the GW Tau, which was going to be more the traders and merchant vessels. So when they went and they were developing them, they did get some feedback from the Battlefleet Gothic guys, and their feedback was, these guys are a little OP. You gotta tune them down. Here's some of our notes about that. And the Forge World team apparently did not like that, and so they did submit their new rules with some changes to the Tau rules, but they didn't really change a whole lot of them. I think one of the things they found was a little broken on them was the turning torpedoes and giving pretty much all the vessels like really high armor, front armor. So Forge World wasn't a big fan of being told that their stuff was OP, and so they did make some changes, but very minimal, like basically enough to go, there, we changed them, they're not, stop complaining. And when the Armada book came out, little bit here is, so Forge World released, they got the green light, they released their rules for the BFG ships on, I want to say Imperial Armor 13? Was whichever Imperial Armor was heavily, no, it couldn't be 13, I think 13 was Chaos. I think it was 3. It was, whichever one was the one that had a lot of the Tau stuff in it. They had their own special, they had a section for Battlefleet Gothic. And that's where they introduced the Tau Defense Force fleet. And then when the Armada book came out, which featured the Tau merchant fleet, apparently Forge World got really angry because they were like, what? You didn't tell us there was going to be another fleet. We thought we were going to be the only ones making Tau stuff. And that was when they decided they weren't going to contribute any more to Battlefleet Gothic. So for anyone who was around when Battlefleet Gothic was still popular, there was only a handful of ships that Forge World was selling. They sold the Tau Defense fleet. They sold 2 Eldar vessels, which was one of them was the... Actually, was it 2? Yeah, pretty sure it was 2. One was the one that just had the single sail going across. I think it was the Solaris class, and they had there was another one. I have 2 of them. I can't remember for the life of me what it was called. I want to... It wasn't the Eclipse. I forget which one, but it was another Eldar vessel. And then they had a Grey Knights strike cruiser, the Tau Defense Fleet, and the Tau defense platforms. They had the Thunderhawks ordnance markers, some Eldar ordnance markers, and the Star Fort. And they were on board to do more, it seems, but when they found out that GW had released the Tau Merchant Fleet, apparently they got so offended by this that they refused to do any more contribution to Battlefleet Gothic than they already had. So they were continuing to produce the models that they had already designed, but they were like, we're not doing any other models for this game. You're gonna pull that on us, we're not doing anything. So it seemed like back in the day that the Forge World guys were a little petty when it came to working on projects, which I think is a little odd, especially since they did a lot of really good models for Battlefleet Gothic, like the Eldar transports for escort missions, which is great. I love having those kinds of... Those were great because it was I wanted those kinds of ships. I know the game was primarily encouraging you to do a lot of customization and such. That was kind of like one of the things that hurt Battlefleet Gothic, because it didn't really rely completely on GW producing all the ships. And granted, they were planning on getting rid of specialist games to begin with. They apparently, from what I've read, they weren't really supposed to be doing Battlefleet Gothic, but one of the heads at the time really loved the idea, and he's like, even though I know we're getting rid of specialist games, I want this game to be produced. So it was kind of one of those scenarios where one of the heads knew what was happening, but was like, this game is so good, we need people to experience it, even if it is just temporary. But like, I liked some of what Forge World was doing. Like said, when I saw that they did the Eldar transports, I was like, oh, those are so cool, because like I said, I like having those environmental ships that really help sell the whole world of Battlefleet Gothic. And so having, transport vessels and civilian ships, defense platforms, stuff like that. Oh, that was another thing they had. They had the Eldar pirate base, which was really cool. I love a lot of the space station models, which was one thing I was a little sad when Soulforge decided they were no longer going to be doing their spaceship stuff, because I was hoping... They said beforehand, before they made their decision, that they were looking into maybe adding more space station stuff. Because again, I love terrain. I love a heavy terrain board. Okay, so we got this model all nice and coated. We're going to let it dry for a little bit to get the... what's the word I'm looking for? So we can then apply a second coat, because as you can see, it's not even. Okay, yeah, so average broadcasting delay. Thank you for that heads up, so I'll know. So if anyone just notes that I'm delayed, it's also because I can't hear anything. This doesn't give me a chime when someone's messaging me, so just bear with me if somebody says something and I don't respond right away. So while we wait for this to properly dry, actually, ooh, I missed a spot. I need to get a wet palette, seriously. I have my eyes on a wet palette. I'm just waiting for a few extra bucks to get it. Okay. So, gotta pick a nice complementary color to go with this turquoise. Looking online, they say like reds are a good mix, you know, like that, but I'm not sure I like that color with that setup. Let's see what the old Boxerooni's got. We could do a nice orange, maybe a light orange. This is called Soul Furnace Brown. Let's see. Not digging it. Gory reds. Dwarf skin, no. Bloody red. Fire orange? Ooh, that kind of looks a little nice. The fire orange. Or that's a brownish color. Do I have any yellow? Medium yellow? I kind of like the idea of yellow in there. So, if anybody feels like giving their 2 cents on what color they think it should be, I'm more than open to ideas. Golden yellow, maybe? Let's see. Not 100% sure which color I want to do, but I'm thinking yellow. I don't know why, but I kind of like the idea of yellow against this turquoise color. Burgundy? You want burgundy? Making me think of what colors I have that works as a burgundy. Let's see. Burgundy. What colors do I have that would work for that? Okay. Alright, like a maroonish color. Or navy blue. Not a big fan of blue and blue. Let's see. Do I have any kind of burgundy color? I got gore red. You want... Let's see. How about that? Like a dark red. Against that. What do you think? Let's see. Curiouser and thumbs up for red. Okay. Let's see. So you want like a bright red, or do you want like a darker down? What do you think? Huh. While we discuss it, while we think about that, I'm gonna put these. I'm putting them over in the spot of the chat where no one can see because of my ugly face. Let's turn off the webcam for a while. We don't need to see me. There we go. Wants a darker red, so probably gory red. Let's see. So, that dark enough for you? And get a little extra turquoise. And move on to painting a second coat of the turquoise here. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking lighter will be better too. Let's see. And if I apply it thin enough, I can always change it up later. That's one of the important things about painting in thin layers, is you can easily go and fix or make changes without needing to strip the whole miniature. And to be perfectly honest though, not 100% sure why even using the Tau Emissary. The Emissary is probably one of the worst colors, not the worst ships in the expandatory fleet that they have. It is, I don't know why you would even bother. The only time I would probably use it is in like mission specific, like a convoy mission or an assassination like mission where you're targeting the emissary vessel, or because I don't even think it gets bonuses in planetary assaults, where you would figure maybe that would get some kind of special rule against that, because the whole premise of that is to invade the planet, and this is the ship carrying their ambassadors. So you'd probably figure you would get some kind of special bonus if it got to the planet and dropped off its payload of people. What do I know? But I would definitely probably only really use this for like specialty missions, like escort missions or surprise assaults. Something where it would be like, this vessel, the Tau need to protect it, or the enemy forces trying to get to it and destroy it, which is basically the same thing. I don't know why I said that like it meant something different. Okay. There we go. Okay, flip it over. 1 second here. Do something real quick. Use channel. Okay. Sorry, just sharing the link to this to some people. And then once this is done, gonna do something that I've never really done with well, I've done it, but gonna try to do a bit of a panel line on this Mini to see if it would actually work on this or not. Alrighty, so is there any more? I think I need to paint a little bit on the sides here. And paint that up a little bit nicer. Get underneath this bridge. Okay, so that's the turquoise done. See. Alrighty, so now the age-old question: am I going to try this trick out or not? I think I am going to try this trick out. So I'm going to see how my panel liner is gonna look in those spaces right here. There's like a checkerboard pattern there. I'm gonna see how putting in just a touch of black will look in that spot. Let's see now. It doesn't flow as well as it usually does, but it works. This is Tamiya panel liner. I mostly use this for Gunplas, but you can use it for this kind of work too. I said probably work better if I let the paint dry first, but I'm impatient. And then later on, once the ink has dried, we'll go over all of my applicator spots to clean it up a little bit. Okay. Hey, do. It's alright for this, because then I'll be constantly zooming in and out. But if you want, let's see, zoom in. There. Not being the cleanest here because the goal is less of trying to get a nice clean finished edge and more to make sure these panel lines get the ink. Oh, this is also why I hate doing it, because I can't tell where my zoom focus line is. Sorry about that, everybody. Okay. And one of the reasons why painting Battlefleet Gothic model after so long, it has been a while since I've done anything involving Battlefleet Gothic, is one friend in my local gaming group. I kinda got them itching to play Battlefleet Gothic, and so they've been going all out with trying to promote the game. And I sat there and I was like, you know what? I've got this Tau Emissary ship. Might as well get some painting done, so I can have a few more Battlefleet Gothic minis. And it's nice. I will admit, partway through I usually record videos on Sunday, and I was like, oh, I forgot to do a video this week. But then I was like, you know, I've been meaning to give live streaming a try with a live feed from the camera. I went out and I'd gotten the connector that I'm using right now for this live feed, and I was like, you know what? This is a good opportunity to give this a shot. So in essence, my haphazardness and forgetting what week it was had given me an opportunity to try out this new format. So what this is going to be, what I'm thinking is maybe do every now and then, instead of doing my regular Joy of Painting mini video compilation where I record then edit, maybe I'll do some live stream video instead, and then later on drop an edited video of the production of the painting project. That way, you know, those that would like to watch live can get a live feed of I could probably use my phone to see the chat. For you, it's not too bad because I'm hearing you click on the keyboard. So after I hear you stop, I'm like, I should probably check to see if she clicked on the keyboard. Plus, I'll be distracted. I want to try to limit my distractions, but we'll look into it. Because this is still a work in progress. This whole production. So yeah, like before, what I was saying in the beginning video where it was like, oh, the Doran'Por means pure water. Yes, Phil actually went out of his way to learn or like study up on the limited Tau vocabulary that GW had produced, so he could get lore accurate Tau terms and names for all of his vessels when we were really big into the Doran'Por series. For those who do not know, the way Tau name their vessels, now I'm taking just a few minutes here for the ink to dry up before I move on, and we're probably going to go with the Evil Sun Scarlet. That way it's like the blue is a little dark, and then this will give a nice pop. You know, don't want the whole thing to be all dark colors. And do I have a yeah, I do. Get the non-airbrush version of the color. Let's see, is it good? That's the $1,000,000 question. Yeah, it's good. Do I have any brighter reds? I'll use that for highlighting. Troll Slayer. I also got this red. What do you think of that one? Oh, that one may not be good because that sounds a little too liquidy in there. Is it good? No, I believe this one's bad. Time to add that to the shopping list. Which, still using the Paint Rack app because it's a really good app. And actually, there's that red. I think that's a nice one. It's a nice balance, not too dark, not too bright. I think I'll go with Mephiston red. Love that sound. So, yeah, while these paint colors dry, so what we're going to be painting with this is we'll be painting the circles around here, the engine blocks, and the bridge, those colors. And then the inner circle here is going to be black, and the back engines are going to be black as well. And the red is going to go along this stem here in the middle. But yeah, so Phil had gone out of his way to learn enough of the Tau vocabulary using the limited info that GW had given on Tau, because like they didn't go crazy and make a whole vocabulary, but you know, enough words, you know, to get some distant, you know, to get a little bit of flavor in there, so they can throw some Tau words in every now and then into dialogue and such. And so he actually looked up this whole thing with them, and oh right, before what I was talking about before I went on my little tangent there is Tau naming ships is weird. It's first the, if I understand correctly, if I remember the order correctly, it's the planet that the vessel was built on. So in this case, if this ship was built on at Doran'Por, the first part of its name would be Doran'Por. Then its class type, so Doran'Por Emissary, but there's like a fancy Tau word for it. I just don't know it. And then after that, the ship's first captain, followed by the ship's current captain. And if the first captain and the current captain happen to be the same, then they just drop one of the instances of the captain's name. So a little weird. Their ship naming structure is a little weird to me. Okay. And then move on to the other guy. Okay. Alrighty, now this is probably one of the few benefits to having such a large backlog like I do, is when I finally get down to sit and paint, I know I've got a lot of projects to hold me over while when I have the free time to do it, which makes it great, especially like nowadays when I've been trying to cut down on the spending of these miniatures. We get, I got a nice big healthy backlog, or a pile of shame there, which is a pile of opportunity at that point, because I have a chance to paint and I don't have to go outside to find another project. I just look up at my shelf and decide what the next project's gonna be. So, and it's funny, like, pile of shames, I've noticed, kind of shift in opinions. Sometimes everyone's like, oh, that's so cool, that's awesome. And then there'll be periods where people are like, essentially gray shaming, like, oh, why you waste so much money if you're not going to paint them? Which, in my case, the reason being, I don't have the time, but I might have the income at the time. And by the time I get the time, model may not be available anymore, or else it may only be available through GW's website, which is when it's even more money. So, if I have a few extra dollars on me sometimes, not all the times, like I said, it's been forever since I've purchased a 40K Mini because I've been, again, trying to get rid of what I currently have. On the 40K end of things, I've got a Eldar Reverend Titan that I'm currently working on. That has been taking me forever to do because it involves the airbrush, and the airbrush requires a lot of prep and setup time. So it's a little tough for me to get that going with my schedule, but I'm hoping when I get my next vacation, which is coming up soon, that I'll be able to work that out. Okay. And then, like I said, gonna do it in thin layers here because thin layers gives us a much better coating. It takes a little longer, but the results are 10 times better. Sometimes you gotta look at the previous thing I painted so I can see what rules did I establish. Okay. Now, let's see, yeah, right here. Alright, so far looking pretty good there. Little bit of red fix there. Gotta clean up that edge along these round discs. Like I said, we're just working on making sure when we have a nice clean edge on all of the painted areas. Because the less going back and fixing up mistakes, the better. And some might be going, oh wait, you know, the Tau. If I was going like traditional because of the way they're supposed to be doing it, it's supposed to be Tau matching with the planet, like I said, planet camouflage. This guy is going to be, I'm going to say, in parade colors, which is basically what the Tau would set up for like special honorifics and such. So this guy, when he's going off to other planets, he's going to be in his parade best. Like, I could have easily just painted them all turquoise and call it a day. But I decided I want to add a little color to this guy. Maybe the other Emissary ship, because this came in a pack of 2. That was one thing that buying Forge World BFG was really great. A lot of their stuff came in packs of 2. So you bought, granted these were cruisers, but even with GW, only some GW fleets sold you 2 cruisers at once. Like I know Eldar, it was 1 single cruiser. Granted, it was metal. And I think Orcs and Dark Eldar and Nids also, they came in packs of 1. I think it was just Space Marine, I think it was just Imperial Navy and Chaos Navy, where the ships came in packs of 2 for the cruisers. But Forge Worlds, pretty much all the cruisers and their pack. The only one that didn't come in like a dual pack, I believe, was Aurora. That was the one that was the second Eldar vessel that they sold. It was the Aurora class. I don't know why I never got the Solus. I think it was the Solaris one. I think it was because it was just a bunch of weapon batteries in the nose, and at the time I was like, I was like, Eldar with weapon batteries, why? Because Eldar do not do well in close combat in BFG. So I don't know why you would have wanted their ships to have nothing but weapon batteries. I think that was the issue, that one, where it was literally nothing but weapon batteries. So it would have to get into its kill zone and hope that it had enough room to move past the vessel, or else it was dead. Because Eldar ships are made of tissue paper, which is the counter for their, which is the counter for the Eldar when it comes to their overpoweredness in Battlefleet Gothic. But yeah, normally I would do this as a like, this is going completely against tradition for the Tau. Like I said, I figure with them, this, like I said, my story for this particular Emissary is, this one is specifically just to go to a planet and leave. Like, it's their ceremonial vessel. And the other Emissary that I have, I'll paint all turquoise. Slowly but steadily getting there. Alright. And now we'll let that red paint dry before we move on. We'll do a second layer, then a wash, and a second layer. Or a cleanup layer, is what I should be saying. Okay. Alrighty, so there we go there, and hold on, I'm gonna do something real quick while I wait for that to dry. Apologize, just working on a little something while I wait for this to dry. Bam, bam. Okay. Alrighty. Alright. So now this is painted up. So this is basically our Tau Emissary in parade colors. For those who are joining us, like I was saying before, Tau primarily use a camouflage method, a camouflage painting to their vessels, where they will have some sort of parade colors. They will typically paint their ships to match the planet that they're occupying at the time. So this guy here is the Doran'Por Sep world, which this is the ship this is painted for, is a teal-ish color because Doran'Por stands for clear blue water, or clear or pure water. So like it's a heavy oceanic world. And the red is here, I'm saying that this is their parade colors. So this vessel leaves basically it leaves Doran'Por a lot and will go to different systems, so it stays in parade colors because it's not tending to stay there for prolonged periods. It's just there to, oh, look at that, it's a little warped. It's just there to stay for a brief moment, drop off its emissaries, and then get out of there. I do have a secondary emissary, which I'll probably paint up in all blue, just to be a proper emissary vessel that would be hanging around aquatic planets or the Tau Sep world, where this one, when it's not going out doing its thing representing the Tau Va, it is hanging out in a dock waiting for its next mission. Now, I say that because I done screwed up. This should have all been turquoise. But again, there is that whole concept of, I like to have it little broken up a little bit, but there is that whole concept of, you know, your model, your rules kind of deal, but I like to try and stay lore accurate. And as I said, lore accuracy, this ship, if this was a emissary vessel from Dor'N'Por, it should all be teal because it would want to hide. It would stay in a position where it could blend in with the planet's surface, then the backdrop of the planet that it's hanging around, which is, as we mentioned, aquatic blue. But I said there is a workaround saying, you know, they do have like uniform colors. And so this would be the Tau uniform colors. So whenever they're on parade or doing grand shows, this is the color scheme they would abide by. Whereas so for those who are like wondering, well, what about the vessels we saw in Doran'Por? They were all classic Tau tan. That, if I was to create a lore story behind it, would be the primary planet they were hanging around was Moonfall, which is a desert wasteland. So that's why they're painted like that. And kind of a funny story, the way Moonfall got its name. Colors looking pretty good together. Thank you. The way Moonfall got its name was we were playing a match, me and Phil, before we decided to do the whole Doran'Por thing and build up on the lore. This kind of was like, in essence, the inspiration for the Doran'Por Tau and all that. Was we were playing a game of, I think it was Planetary Assault. I was the aggressor, and I was playing very aggressively to a point, and prior to me getting to the planet, we had a couple of space hulks that drifted onto the planet that we were fighting, that was the target. And for those who, if you ever played in low atmospheric orbit, vessels in low atmo will slowly move 10 centimeters towards the surface. And we had one ship, we had one Hulk, I believe. It started with a Hulk drifting into the planet, and we just argued that it went into low atmo and crashed on the surface of the planet. Then the Tau, or my AdMech ship, went into low atmo and started attacking the planet, and the Tau vessels came to intercept, and a couple of Tau vessels, I believe a cruiser and I think a battleship, got disabled while in low orbit, and they ended up crashing into the planet. And then I think my battleship ended up crashing into the planet. So we came to the conclusion that this planet is now just a horrid wasteland of a planet in the Doran'Por Sept, and that was the whole case. And that's where the name of the planet Moonfall came from. The whole concept was like, there was so many cruisers that crashed into the planet. The environmental impact was as if the moon had landed on the planet itself. And that's where we got the idea for Moonfall, and that was the groundwork for the lore for the original Doran'Por Saga video series that we did. And that didn't start on Fearless Games. That actually started on my private YouTube channel, which I no longer use. There was a couple of it. There was first the original thematic video, which was an Exterminatus mission, where where our wannabe Abaddon for our Sons of Horus fleet, explain that one a little bit, went, attacked Doran'Por, successfully destroyed it, and it became a planet, a mining planet, after the Exterminatus weapons were fired on the planet. Then we decided, when we were doing Fearless Games, I was like, you know what, I'm going to bring that video series over, because I really enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun, and I noticed it was probably on my personal channel my most popular video, because everyone was like, oh, I like the idea of, this story. It wasn't just us going back and forth like, up, I hit you, up, okay, rolling dice. We played out the story mission. If you want to see, we have the Doran'Por Saga videos in the channel that was playlist. And so I brought it over to Fearless Games, and I had one more video on my normal channel, which was supposed to be like a prologue to the Doran'Por Saga, and then it was trying to tell everybody, and then, I posted, go over to Fearless Games to see the rest, though I'm not sure how many people from the original YouTube channel actually got and see it, because I did see a couple of comments on videos like, oh, when's this coming out? And I sadly lost touch with that old channel, so I never went and replied saying, oh, it's over here. So hopefully they eventually found it. But if you want to see it, as I said, if you go into the playlist, the channel that was, you'll see them. There's the Doran'Por Saga. You can also search Doran'Por Saga on YouTube. It shows up. Probably the one that shows up the most is the final video, because I don't know why I watched that one a lot on my own. I think I just liked how the ending was. Though, recently going back and looking at it, it's very cheesy and corny, in my opinion. If we were to do something like that again, I would try, and one thing I would want to really improve on is the dialogue. Because I was also still learning a little bit of stuff with that. Like, if you actually go and watch some of those old videos as Captain Stryker, who was somehow he was a
a member of the Mechanicum, yet he had a normal talking voice, and if you look at his image, he was a commissar, so he's the most anti-Mechanicum character ever. He used to refer to the Omnisaya as the Omniscia. Because I didn't know what I was talking about. I was just going off of the spelling, and I am terrible with reading a lot of GW's names for stuff like that. And also, it's just a word I've never really seen before. Or like, it's one of those where I've heard the word, like it's supposed to, it's a play on the Messiah. I've always heard the word Messiah, never seen it spelt. So when I saw Omnisaya for the first time, I was like, Omniscia. So for a while, there was a Mechanicum character in our channel that referred to the Omnisaya as the Omniscia. And it's just, overall, some of the dialogue was just really corny in those old videos. That would definitely be one thing I'd want to improve upon if I went back to that, is just making better dialogue choices. Huh? Okay. Oh no, forgive me, got a error on my end. So I was just reading up what that was about. Okay. Almost good. Just a little bit more here, and then we will move on to the engines and gun barrels, which are going to be black. And then we will put a red wash on all the red near the panels to try and give them a little more definition. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about this kind of idea for Joy of Painting Minis. Do you prefer the live stream? Do you prefer the pre-made videos? Let me know. I'm very curious about that. Like I said, I do plan on taking this video afterwards, slicing it up, and making it into a traditional Joy of Painting Minis video. So, in case that's more your preferred preference, this way, those that like the idea of live video stream versus pre-made videos kind of get like the best of both worlds. Alrighty, looking pretty good there. So, let us move on to painting some of the black details in this guy. Experiencing buffering. Okay. Sorry about that all. Like I said, I'm still learning how this streaming stuff works. But let us go on here. Alrighty. Let's add some black. So we're gonna put black on these dots here and on these engines, and then on all the gun barrels on this vessel. Okay. Using now, one thing that I do a little differently for a lot of these, I like to use air paints with a brush, mostly because they're thinned down for oh no, my paints, my beautiful paints. Because they're already thinned down for an airbrush, I find I don't need to thin them down anymore. It's as if I had went through the trouble of thinning them. So I kind of like using airbrush paints when possible. Which is very good also for these kinds of miniatures, because the Forge World BFG ships, very thin in terms of the detail. So very easy to clog them up. And I find with the airbrush paints, because they're already pretty thin, I don't risk I'm not running the risk of them being too thin as much. Okay. And for all of those who are just joining us, welcome to our Fearless Games very first live streaming Joy of Painting Minis episode. This is a work in progress, so I do apologize for any hiccups or like poor choices on my end in terms of with my presentation here. I am still working out the kinks of this, but once I am done with this video, I will take all the footage that we got here and I will cut it up into a traditional video, so it will cut out a lot of the dead time where I'm basically not doing anything, and throw in my traditional ending that you've seen on some of those Joy of Painting mini videos, where you see the model rotating on a disc and me saying some sort of closing monologue about it. And when I am done, there will be pictures on the YouTube page, the Instagram page. So anyone who wants to see more angles of this model once I'm done will be able to go there. Plus see images of other projects that I've been working on and other members of Fearless Games have been working on. Though Phil's probably going to be mad at me. He sent me a lot of photos and I just never got around to posting them on the Instagram page. Okay. And then flip, 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 flip. Paint those edges. And for this, to try and get like a nice little glow effect on the engines, once I'm done painting these guys, we're going to go back in there with white, hit it up with some white, then hit it up with a contrast paint to give it like a nice little color, like a glowing type effect, and then hit the center again with a very fine, thin line of white to sell that glowing effect a little more. Okay. Looks pretty good. Let me try and get into that little crevice. There we go. Good. Alrighty. So, with that out of the way, rinse the heresy out of my paintbrush. That's a James joke, so blame James if you think that joke was corny. But we are going to be rinsing, well, he wanted to say to beat the heresy out of the brush, like, you know, like how Bob Ross used to say, just whack or beat the devil out of the brush after he hit it in some paint thinner. So what we're now going to do is hit that with a wash of Carenberg Crimson. It's using some old school paint here. This is one of the more original washes. And yet I have like 5 bottles of these. I don't know why. Probably because I forgot I had it. And we're gonna hit just where the panel lines are and the crevices. I don't want to go too crazy with this wash. I want to help just give a nice definition. And then once that dries, we will go back over those areas with our red so we can clean up the coloring. Okay. Hit it right there. A little bit around these areas. And then even though 9 times out of 10 you won't see this, we're still going to coat these details. Because I'll know they're there. Very good. Alrighty. And while we wait for that wash to dry up, I'm gonna try to make a ink-like consistency with my white, so I can put a little white into these Tau symbols on the wings of the Emissary. So let's pull out the airbrush dead white that I know is here somewhere. Where is it over there? I don't find it. I'll just make a really... Oh, there it is. It was already out to begin with. Hey, give that a good shake. Put a little dab and mix a little water into it to get it as... Ooh. I should be using like there's like a medium that you can use to basically make these paints into inks. Let's give this a shot. See how well this goes. So I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see better what it is I'm doing. Okay, not the best, but that is a very thin line, and I am not using the best technique for this. So I'm just trying to get it as thin as possible to get into those tiny little crevices. There we go. There we go. So let that dry for a brief moment, and then we will go in to fix that up. And while we wait for it to dry, we will clean up all of these dab lines that I made. Oops, pardon my hairy arm there. Now, do I have a thinner brush? Let me just see real quick. Do I have a thinner brush? I want to say you're thinner? Yeah, you're thinner. I gotta finish making my Gridfinity drawer for my paint stuff. I've been really into using Gridfinity for organizing my drawers. It did great for my hobby drawer, and so I want to move on and do it for my paint drawer, which I started, and I just need to finish it up. And actually, that looks like that could use a spot of black lining on it, because that doesn't look like it really went well. There we go. Can you see what I'm doing? No, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just going over this area again to try and bring out the checker pattern a little better. Okay. Dab that a little bit. There we go. Okay, and while that dries, we can clean up the front of it. And I realize I didn't fix the guns, so that's something I'm gonna have to go back and do anyway, because I need to paint over these white areas again with black to clean them up. So let us begin. Okay. I can see also there's another little spot here that needs a little darker wash. There we go. There we go. And dab a little water. Thin it down. Okay. Now I'm just cleaning up the blue areas where I had dabbed the ink for the panel lining. Okay, thin down. And then give that a little more time. So let's clean up the bottom here. Oops, that would have been bad. Almost dipped it in the black. Okay. And then once this is done, I'm gonna send this off to Phil and see if it gets his seal of approval. And it was actually funny, when we were originally working on Doran'Por, me and Phil used to clash a little bit about the dialogue for the Tau, because Tau typically are not very aggressive. They are, like, when they get into, like, a fight where they can't win, they don't, like, stand and hold their ground. They're like, okay, let's retreat and come back with more numbers to try and overwhelm the foe. So I was always writing the dialogue for the Tau like, oh, stand your ground, man, we will not give up, blah 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 blah. And he's like, no, they wouldn't do that, they wouldn't do that, they would run away. And he's like, no, but then there's no plot if they run away. And it's like, oh no, but that's how the Tau work. It was like, well, it's a stupid idea, but we had to go with it because we wanted to try and stay as lore accurate as possible. So I had to find other ways of essentially making the Tau stand and fight while keeping that idea of they don't go in, you know, they will back down from a fight that they feel they can't win and then come back later with larger numbers. But I remember always going like, oh, if only the Tau weren't so wishy-washy with how they dealt with threats. It would make writing dialogue for them so much easier. Okay. We're almost done. Okay. I see there's a little spot here. It's still not... if I can do this without completely ruining the paint job. Okay. One good thing about painting with this, because of the two lamps that I got going here, the ink dries pretty quickly. Okay. And just gotta clean up a little bit over here. Whoops. Went a little too crazy there. I was able to save it for the most part. Alrighty. Not really seeing much in the way of splotches that need to be fixed. Maybe like right over here. Okay, so yeah, I could probably go and make the checker pattern a little more prominent, but I think it looks good as it is. So we're going to go back and clean up all these reds areas that we made with the that we've tidied up with the Carberg Crimson. Then, after that, we will hit up the engines and the gun barrels with some black. Then we'll do a final effect on the engines, and then we can call this piece done. Okay, and flip her over, fix up these guys. Alrighty. Now, we're gonna hit it up. We're gonna hit up. So next step is gonna be touching up the black, putting black on the guns. Then we're going to do some highlighting and engine work. Well, probably do the highlighting later. But what I'm gonna do with that is I'm gonna mix some white with the teal to try and lighten it up a little bit. We're gonna hit this up with a lighter red. And then that'll be it for the highlights. Not gonna be too crazy because it is a BFG ship. They're not really super detailed in that sense where you need to really highlight them. That's like a extra step if you want to go. I'm sorry, I always forget when I'm using the ring focus which way is zooming in, which way is zooming out. Okay. Not too bad. Not too bad. Given the work surface that I have to work with here. So, touch up all of the little gun barrels. That's one thing with Battlefleet Gothic. Painting fine details is a super test of your patience. Okay. In case anyone's wondering, those holes there, that's where, because with Tau vessels, you need gravity hooks to bring escorts in, and the number of gravity hooks you have determines how many escorts you can bring, and those are the gravity hooks. So the escorts would lock onto those, and then the ship would do its light speed travel, because Tau don't use the warp for traveling. They basically go at like a hyperspace kind of deal and just zoom. So they don't really they don't have like warp capability, and their smaller ships can't go fast enough, so they essentially attach to the bigger ships, and the bigger ships carry them along to wherever it is they're going. Okay. And that's looking pretty good right now. Alright, so do one more little quick touch up on that area just to fix up where I got a little too much black on the front plate of the hull. But first and foremost, going to take care of those engines. So, since I've got the regular paint for this, I'm going to use regular white, if I can. I think this is plugged up. Where's a thumbtack? That's the only one thing about dropper bottles. They do have their own issues. Come on. This is going to be one of those where it pops out and gets everywhere, isn't it? Well, that's good. Gives the paint a little extra time to dry. I try to clean out this dropper bottle. Yeah, come on. Come on, you stupid dropper bottle. Let's see, can I take you off to get better? Let's see, come on, come on. Oh, yep, that would be the problem. Let's see, get a paper towel. Just yank that out. Yeah, I think that's the whole bottle. Yep, that's the whole bottle. This bottle is dead. Oh well. I've still got the airbrush version. It's just gonna take a couple extra. Take a few extra goes before it's ready for the next step. But completely doable. And I could be a little messy in here because that'll just help with the painting out the edges of the engines to give it a glow effect. Apologize, I'm blocking you guys' views. Hey. Okay, so now gonna let that dry. While I do that, we're going to do a little bit of edge highlighting Well, let me first see how a white with turquoise looks. Come on. Okay, so that's what I'll do. I'll mix turquoise with a little bit of white and go from there. First, we will do a 2 white to 1 blue. 1, 2. That's probably the one thing, like, that is one huge advantage the dropper bottles have over paint pots, is you can control the parts a little easier when you do like 1 part to 1 part, because it's just like, oh, 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop. Let's see. I'm gonna add a 3rd drop. Not liking how light that is. I think it needs to be a little lighter. I had a little bit of a clog in that one too. There we go. Yeah, I think that's good. So, mental note, 3 parts white, 1 part turquoise. Okay, and then okay. Okay. Alright, and do a little bit on this checkered area. Oh, I need to rinse the heresy out of this brush. Okay. Welcome to How to Go Insane. Okay, almost done. Okay, and then back here. And some of this I'll have to go back over and clean up. like right there. I'm just gonna... Alrighty. Now, looking pretty good. So probably gonna later go back and like gotta fix up a couple little things here. But looking pretty solid, I'd say, for what we've got here on a tiny little Battlefleet Gothic ship, especially since I haven't painted BFG in forever. I'm gonna just quickly go in with some turquoise here and fix up this little spot here. And then fix up that little mistake. Okay. Straighten out that highlight line a little bit. Alright. So now gonna highlight the red. So we're coming down to the wire here. It's gonna be highlighting the red, doing the engines, and then probably it. I'm probably not gonna do any highlighting on the black on the engines. If anything, I'll just clean it up a little bit afterwards. Get my red highlight color here, which, since it's Mephiston red, gonna do Evil Sun Scarlet as my highlight. Alrighty. That's a very subtle highlight, so I might go over it again, but it's not a big deal if it's very subtle. Doesn't need to stick out like a sore thumb. Okay, so what we're going to do for the engines is going to pull out the old Gilliman blue, or Gulliman, or however you wish to pronounce his name, and we're going to fill it in into the engines. Now, like, they don't make the wash anymore, or the glazes anymore, so a substitute for this would be taking one of the contrasts, like Tessadar Blue, I think it's pronounced, thinning it down really thin to create a glaze. I'm just trying to get it really into the edges of this, like up into the sides of the engines. But there's going to be one more step to this before we can say the engines are done. Okay. Let's make sure it's nice and even. I said I wouldn't probably use this again because it's so thick at this point. It's not even really it's being generous calling it a glaze now. Okay, and that's going to be to add a white center. So for that, I'm going to have to find my thinnest brush. Let's see. Aha. I think you will do. Actually, do I have medium? What are you? A small layer brush. Are you smaller? This one I think will do just fine. Okay, and so we're going to try and get a really nice thin edge in the very center of those engines. And it's okay if this is a little thin because it'll help with the glow effect from the piece. Okay. Right, and then with the steadiest of hands, there. Might thicken this up a little bit.
Okay, and then we got our nice glowing engine. And let's see, since it's not too terrible here, let's do one last highlight. We will highlight up the black a little bit. Actually, do I need to highlight or do I need to clean it? I need to clean it. So instead of highlighting, we will clean up the black. Okay, let's see. Okay. I apologize if my head's in the way. I'm having trouble seeing these tiny gun barrels without doing it. Alrighty. And there we have it. So this is one Tau Doran'Por Tau Emissary vessel completed. Like I said, I'm going to say that this is the parade colors for the Sept world, because, like I said in the beginning, I kind of screwed up the mythology, I kind of screwed up the lore in terms of color settings. Like I said, it's supposed to be all turquoise because the planet is a ocean world. Not entirely covered by ocean water, but it's got it has some land masses, but it's predominantly got a lot of large oceans on it, and so it should be all teal. But I'm gonna say that this is the parade colors for Doran'Por, so this is a ship that will go out to other planets to look all nice and pretty and presentable, then leave, and in any war-torn areas, which is what the other emissary vessel will be, that one I'll probably paint maybe in the Tau Orca color to match with the rest of the fleet, but we'll see. Or I might just do it all teal, just so it's a little bit more traditional. But that is the whole thing painted up. I will cut this video down into a shorter format for those who want the shorter format, but please let me know what you think of the idea of these live videos for Joy of Painting mini sessions, and give me your feedback. Do you want to see more of them? Do you want to just have me do the traditional videos? Leave a comment and I will look into that. So also, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you can get notified when events like these happen, and give that little video a like so this gets circulated around. We really would appreciate it. Thank you to Goku Girl for being our moderator for the evening, And once again, thank you all for watching, and until next time, fearless gamers, take care.